And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
RCPA chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, with planet.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside SC off. Bring in SC off. Off. It's orange!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. Put that in the big bag, Tingle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. Keep that. We don't need any more of these.
Hello everyone, welcome to another NSF stream, and we have a live view right now of Blue Origin's New Glenn rocket. This is nearly 100 meters tall, and by the looks of it, Blue Origin is getting into some testing activities. We've seen flare stacks going on Space Coast Live, we've seen venting, we've seen a lot of stuff going on, and this stream, you know, we haven't seen a lot of testing with New Glenn before, so this stream, just to set expectations out the door, we're really going for some good old-fashioned tank watching. It's not Texas tank watching, because we are live from Cape Canaveral, so it's Florida tank watching, but that doesn't really roll off the tongue. Anyways, let's get into the introductions here. My name's Ryan Caton. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. And alongside me, somebody who's been following New Glenn for a very long time. Adrian, how you doing, my friend?
Absolutely doing fantastic. I've prepared for this day. The day we finally can observe New Glenn performing some testing, and from the whispering on the X and on everything, it might be all the way up until a static fire today. Of course, that is pending what we will see today, but there are some whispers. Certain Eric Berger, for example, has said about that this might be up to a static fire. So we will see what is going on today here. And again, as you said, there are more unknowns than usual on this. We will get to it, but there's no way we have a T0 today.
Yeah, it's I don't know how to describe it apart from the fact that it's good old-fashioned tank watching. We're just having to get Alex doesn't have a spreadsheet ready to tell us when we see vent 3 out of the booster, we're gonna see tank loading beginning here. We don't have any of that, right? We don't have any of that. So along with everyone in chat that I'm seeing right now, I've seen all the 5x5s, we're just gonna be kind of guessing.
Yeah.
Adrian, that's the best way to put this, right? We're just guessing at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we have some ideas, and by the way, Jay behind the scenes here, just pointed that out. Jay helping that we get all of this, and also Gage behind the scenes here as well, setting up Cape cameras. And I think we will get some other views later, Ryan, that help us understand all of this a bit better. But for the moment, yeah, we know there's a rocket on the pad. Of course, you can see that very centered in your screen. That's the rocket. Between these very tall towers, you can see the transporter erector of New Glenn. And behind that, you can see like this white shape. That is New Glenn. And again, we will have some better views in a bit. But what we can also tell is that the flare stack is active, and that's the methane or the liquid natural gas flare stack, which is interesting because, of course, that is used on the first stage. You can see that on the left side there. That flare stack is showing activity, and not only just like, oh, it's puffing a bit. So it's very significant activity, which leads to the assumption that we are in some sort of propellant loading. And we also had venting earlier from Glenn stage 1, GS1, which is, of course, the first stage. That's the stage that is equipped with 7 BE4 engines, and is the one that we expect to potentially go all the way up to into static fire today.
We've already been getting some questions in chat, so thank you everybody for that. Again, if you're new around here, tag us in chat at NASASpaceflight. That filters out all of the nonsense and brings it into our question queue in the background here. Adrian, I'm going to kick things off with one question here. You know, we'd love to see some tanking testing. We'd love to maybe see a static fire. But the one thing we all want to see is the launch of this rocket, right?
Yeah.
And High Reactivity is asking Christmas launch, question mark?
Christmas launch is a bit early. Let's be real here. We are talking about the potential, even if they go all the way to static fire test, today, this would be the first static fire of this rocket. We also know that there's apparently waiting some regulatory guidance. We also know that the FAA launch license is not yet booked on the website, so that's always a significant indicator they're still waiting on something. So overall, we are just observing it right now. There's a very good chance that they will need. Maybe to give you a bit of estimate about the timeline and why Christmas is probably unlikely. That fairing on top of this rocket is not the fairing that will that is not the payload that will fly on the first launch. The blue ring payload is most likely in that hangar right there. So what will happen after the static fire, if they get all the way to a static fire, is they will put the rocket back to horizontal, they will roll it back to the hangar, they will place the fairings and put the actual payload fairing on top of this, and after that they will just roll this out again and then launch. So even that already makes it a bit unlikely, because 5 days for the first time you're off static fire rocket, rolling back, integrating a new fairing. I would say the week of the 30th is probably the earliest net right now, maybe even a bit later in January. But honestly, January seems like a good guess at this point.
Yeah, December 45th, maybe. I don't know. Anything to try and get it into the end of 2024. I don't know. Just because in our little, what's coming up in 2024 video we did at the start of the year, like, oh, maybe we'll see New Glenn launch this year. Maybe not anymore. Hitting some support quickly. Ron Smith, thank you very much for the $5 super chat. I'm not going to say the word that's at the end of that message, but thank you very much for the support. Cooper, thank you for becoming a Red Team member. Earl S. Hicks Jr., thank you for becoming a Padrat member. And Austin has done a $5 tip at tips.nasaspaceflight.com. Adrian, do you want to read this question for us?
Static fire hype, how many scrolls can fit inside New Glenny? Also happy to see Mr. Map on another stream. Thank you.
So, sorry, was that how many squirrels inside? Do you mean?
I'm glad you're enjoying this. Yeah. By the way, we can see venting right now. To quickly mention that while it happens, and also to completely move away from this topic that is paining me. You can see venting from the rocket right now. You can see it on the so there's this black middle part of the transport director, and right above that there's like a small puffs coming, and that should be the upper end of first stage, if I'm not fully mistaken, because the first stage is quite large. So yeah,
this rocket is quite large.
Yes,
this is not a Falcon 9 scale rocket. This is nearly 100 meters tall. This is the size of the Saturn V. This is a big, heavy lift rocket.
Yes. Absolutely. It's because I also saw some people who were like, oh, will we even see the static fire from this angle? Yes, you will. So just to point this out, the maximum thrust of these BE4s will be 17 meganewton. That is about 2.5 Falcon 9s, somewhere in there. So this rocket is almost as powerful as Falcon Heavy at liftoff. There's no way you're hiding 7 BE4s being fired. That's just not possible. It's a huge rocket. It's 98 meters tall. It's, if you ignore Starship, it's basically a very, very big rocket. And look at that flare stack. That's a significant activity from that flare stack right there. And of course, that is a flare stack very similar to what we have seen in the early days of Boca Chica, because liquid natural gas, methane, is a hazardous environmental gas. So the best way to reduce that hazardous impact is to burn it. And that is what is happening there. The gaseous methane that they can no longer use to like recondense or get back into the tanks that's being burned there.
Do you just want to quickly kind of showcase what we're looking at? Because,
Yes.
people who have been following Starship for a long time, for example, they'll know what the Pope vent is, they'll know what the OAM vent is, etc., etc. From our perspectives here, just south of Port Canaveral, we can kind of see, I believe we can see 3 flare stacks, 2 of which are currently ignited. Am I correct?
Yeah, absolutely. We can. So right now, of course, we can mostly see one big flare stack. That is the methane flare stack that you can see on the left side. That is the one flare stack that is more visible because methane burns more visible. Then on the middle, of course, you have LC-36. LC-36 is basically, as soon as it becomes active, if I'm not mistaken, the tallest launch pad in the world, because it's enormous. This launch pad is completely like, even for New Glenn, which is already a big rocket, this launch pad is basically completely over-designed. It's in a huge launch pad, and you can see in front of that is the enormous horizontal hangar where New Glenn is assembled. That is where the first, second stage, and fairing meet and are then being rolled out. Then, of course, New Glenn is very similar to Falcon 9, supported by a transporter erector. So that means it is rolled out in a horizontal configuration and is then being transferred to vertical position by this transporter erector, which you can see there. It's basically the backbone of the rocket, which is right now also hiding the rocket a bit. Then, of course, the 2 towers on the pad are also lightning protection towers. You can see the lightning protection mast at the top. And to the very right, we have a water tower. And if I'm not fully mistaken, somewhere in there is also the hydrogen stack that we cannot really see right now.
Yeah,
because
if you look, this is like really, really difficult to explain. But if you look at this shot, you can see the water tower on the right. Take the leftmost leg of the water tower down towards the tree line, and then just down and to the left, there's a little gap in the trees, and you can see orange flashing through that gap every so often. It's really hard to see, but once you see it, you can see it, right? So it just flashed orange again there. So it's if you can figure out what I mean by that, that's where we're looking for that other flare stack that's currently ignited.
Yep, absolutely. And that flare stack is, of course, for the activity of the second stage. I believe we see a huge vent there from the rocket. Can we go back to the rocket there? Sorry, I'm demanding here. But was there a vent from the rocket? I think there was a quite a big vent from the rocket right there. But overall, yes, of course, the first and second stage for New Glenn use different commodities. The first stage uses liquid natural gas or liquid methane and liquid oxygen, and the second stage uses liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen for its engines for it to be 3 use. So they also have different flare stacks because building a combination flare stack of methane and hydrogen and then burning that off sounds like a very stupid idea. But yeah, look at that. There's a huge vent going on from the first stage. You see that at the bottom?
Yeah, it's kind of like wisping over from the rocket to the right tower there, just behind.
Yeah, that's probably some sort of like depressure control. I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot right now here, but you can tell I'm very excited to talk about this rocket finally. And usually rockets, while they're in fueling or they need to release some boil-off gas, and this is probably New Glenn's boil-off control that we see here. It's very similar to other rockets here, and it's absolutely interesting to see this for the first time for New Glenn. Of course, we don't know in what status they are right now. We don't know if they are like in tanking, in detanking, in holding, and that's the fun part. We are trying to understand here.
Yeah. Well, we've been getting a few more questions in chat. I'm going to run through a few of them here quickly. First of all, none of the above asking, why does the top look chilled? And I believe they're referring to the tip of the vehicle there. And Adrian, that's actually the fairing, isn't it? This is a fully stacked New Glenn vehicle.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the top is not chilled. The top is white, as is basically the rest of the rocket, besides these very I would say controversial brown, not painted parts. But yeah, and overall the rocket is white. The rest of the rocket you cannot see from this angle right now. We will be able to see the rocket potentially in a bit, but you can see mostly there is the transporter erector that is basically blocking the rocket. It's like perfectly like perfectly in front of the rocket.
You say the controversial brown bits. Maybe this is a hot take. It's actually grown on me a bit. I actually like the two-tone white brown not flaps, like aero strake. I forgot what they're called. They're not wings. They're like little chine looking things on the side of the boot. You know what I mean, right? You know, you guys know what I mean. But it's actually grown on me a little bit. Maybe that's a hot take though. Chat, let me know what you think. Am I wrong, or is that just, or is it grown on everyone? I don't know. We have another question here from Xavier asking, can we now call this New Glenn booster 1.1 or is it too soon? And Adrian, this booster actually has a name, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is. So you're telling me there's a chance because, of course, what Blue Origin wants to do in the first flight of this rocket is to reuse it. So they wanna potentially land it on their drone ship Jacqueline, and potentially get this booster back because the New Glenn booster is designed to be at least 25 times. That's the design goal they have given themselves. They want to be able to use these boosters up at least 25 times. That's their goal. And of course, Blue Origin is also a company that has reusability in mind. And their reusability goals are quite ambitious here, with starting reusability with New Glenn from the get-go. And of course, that's another part here. We know that down the line, they also want to potentially do second stage reusability with some projects that they tested in the past and some headed tanks we saw and everything. But in the beginning, New Glenn will be a partially reusable rocket, hopefully.
Yeah, but the future is bright for this rocket. This is the beginning of what could be a very, very interesting set of vehicles that Blue Origin would be able to fly. Moving on from that to another aspect, potentially for the future of New Glenn, John Cook is asking, is there a plan to get New Glenn crew rated? And this is interesting because there were some rumours, shall we say, going around a few months ago that maybe Blue Origin would be interested in buying ULA and potentially is sniffing around Boeing's Starliner, maybe. We don't know if any of that is true. Those are just rumours going around on Twitter or X, as they usually do. But Adrian, do you think that crew rating is a potential future avenue for Blue Origin with New Glenn? Because, well, flying crew is kind of how they're making their money right now. That's the only thing they've launched.
Yeah, I mean, they also launched science missions on New Shepard, but yes, honestly, I see it. There will always be, I think there will be demand for having a second option next to Falcon to launch crew. We have seen most of the crew capsules or potential designs are very vehicle agnostic at this point, which means they can use more than one launch vehicle. They can be configured for all kinds of launch vehicles. And we have heard all kinds of rumors what New Glenn might launch in the future. There's, of course, future commercial space stations. And of course, that's another part. Blue Origin has very much interest in getting a future space station up. Like that's a very declared goal of New Glenn. So I would be very surprised if the company that basically wants to create an in-space manufacturing complex, like that's for what SpaceX is Mars. Like SpaceX is always like about Mars and making humanity multiplanetary. Blue Origin's mission is more in the area of moving manufacturing and business to a LEO economy. Like they have a lot of talks about bringing manufacturing and all kinds of industries to space. And I don't know, I would be weirded out if the company that talks about bringing manufacturing to space is not bringing the people that are needed for that to space themselves. That's my long answer about if they will create New Glenn. I hope that makes sense.
It did to me. It did to me. Todd, thank you very much. Just gifted 10 red team memberships, and thank you very much. And Christoph gifted 1 red team membership earlier on as well. Arpad, sorry if I pronounced your name incorrectly, has become a PadRap member. Thank you very much, everybody. That now means 15 odd people now have access to the NSF membership program who didn't before this stream started a few minutes ago. So thank you everybody for the support. Greatly appreciated. Aiden is asking, how much bacon can fit in New Glenn?
Well, if you convert the bacon into metric tons, you can, according to Blue Origin's design goals of this, bring up to 45,000 kilograms of bacon to LEO, which is the payload to LEO that New Glenn aims to achieve. And that goes down to 7,000 kilograms to TLI.
So you can take 7.5 tons of bacon to the moon, is what you're saying?
7,000. Not 7.5, 7. 7,000 tons of bacon.
Wait, 7,000 tons or 7,000 kilos?
Sorry, kilos. I'm sorry. 7,000 kilos. But of course, then you
7,000 tons of bacon to the moon.
You also have to calculate what's the density of bacon, right? Like, is it mass restricted?
Fit in the fairing?
Is it mass or volume? Is bacon mass or volume restricted? And that's actually an interesting point because the fairing of New Glenn is quite big. That's one of the design goals or like design aims they had to make this fairing very spacious, because of course we have seen in the past that payloads need more space because that means you need to compress them less. You can fit more into a fairing. I mean, there's very much an example for this because Falcon 9 almost outgrew its capabilities with its fairing because Falcon 9 got so much more capable over time and still has this relatively small fairing for its capability at this point, where you get to the point where sometimes missions are volume restricted and not mass restricted. So yeah, it's totally a design goal here with this 7-meter diameter rocket. Like, this rocket is 2 meters smaller in diameter than Starship. That's a lot.
Yeah, and you might be like, oh, it's 2 meters smaller in diameter than Star. It's still 7 meters in diameter. 7 meters in diameter is very, very significant. This is a big rocket.
Yeah, I mean, Falcon 9 is 3.7. Like, New Glenn is basically halfway between Starship and Falcon 9, somewhere in there.
Yeah, with very similar performance as Falcon Heavy.
Yeah, it's like if people are comparing this to Falcon 9, I think the more fair comparison is comparing this to Falcon Heavy. Like, this is a Falcon Heavy class vehicle, even though it's a single stick.
Yeah. And speaking of the size of the payload fairing, a few days ago, Blue Origin tweeted an image of that payload fairing with the payload for the first flight, their Blue Ring Pathfinder inside, and the Blue Ring Pathfinder is tiny compared to the fairing. It's almost humorous. They've got this tiny little payload in this massive fairing. But that's that. Just looking at what we're looking at very quickly, we can see on the left that flare stack has returned. It did die down for a little bit, but now it's you can see it. That flare stack on the left is doing flare stack things.
We are kind of in a situation where I want to say this means activity. I'm transferring knowledge here from the flare stack from Starship. The question is just which activity, because back in the day, that flare stack had 2 times where it was really active, during loading and unloading. Of course, it's very impossible for us to say right now what exactly of the 2 it is, but usually this flare stack activity indicates propellant is in movement. like some
Yeah.
shape or form.
NSF can confirm Blue Origin is doing something, but we cannot confirm what they are doing. So that's the message at the moment. They're doing something, we just don't know what.
Yep, absolutely. It's hard, right? This is kind of very similar to how we approach these early Starship streams. Like, of course, at this point, thanks to many different people that have put knowledge into Starship, we have a very good understanding of the Starship countdown. But this is the first time we are really closely observing potentially like full tanking, some sort of sequence fire, whatever ever test of New Glenn. So we just don't know yet. We don't have the clues. Actually, the first time we really get a clue is when they static fire, because what you can then do is go an hour back and look at what happened the 60 minutes before the static fire, and then understand what should we see.
Yeah. We've gotten a lot. Chat is very interested in the two towers here, and we've gotten loads of questions about these two towers. One of those questions from Hugh Mann asking, why is one tower larger than the other? And I believe both towers are actually the same height, but you could definitely see from this perspective the tower on the left is much more dense than the lightning tower on the right. So Adrian, do we know why that left tower is so much more bulked up compared to the other tower?
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe the left tower is actually supporting. Like it has all sides of other hardware attached to it. The right tower is basically just an assembled structure for that lightning protection cage, while the left tower is in theory actually like a propellant and everything supporting tower, which is of course like New Glenn is fueled from the transporter erector. But in theory, that left tower hosts way more than the right tower.
Yeah. If you watched Tim Dodd's The Everyday Astronaut's Blue Origin tour, which if you haven't is an excellent tour, which you should go and watch. Tim actually goes up the tower with Jeff Bezos, and the tower they go up is that tower on the left because it has an elevator inside of it. I would not want to climb the tower on the right, especially
I believe
considering that
the right tower probably has also a staircase or some sort of ladder to get up there, but I prefer not to use that.
Yeah, I'll use the lift. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm preferring the lift as well.
Rankley is asking, and I'll direct this to the lead of the store team. Adrian, are we going to have Glenn Flight 1 merch?
Good question. Probably not yet, because we're like with Starship, we also needed a few test flights to find out what we actually do. We'll see what we'll do. We of course have the BE4 shirt in the store already, and there will be metal prints. Let's be real. And speaking of cool shots from photographers, we promised you more views, right?
Thanks to Max, who has rolled out to the other side of the body of water, which I've definitely not forgotten the name of. Is this bit the Indian River? I can't remember. I'm definitely not looking right now.
No way you're looking.
It's the Banana River. It's the Banana River. It's the Banana River. Which I knew. And providing us an excellent view of that venting from the right side of the vehicle there. And I'm being told there's more. What's more?
Oh.
And it looks like Jerry has managed to get airborne. Not Jerry himself, but his drone rather over. I think we're over the ocean right now, or over Coco or something. You can see the lighthouse, and you can see that big. This is a beautiful shot, and this actually. Oh, and the bird as well. This is a beautiful shot. Just saying, and this actually provides an excellent opportunity to see the two flare stacks we were talking about earlier, because now the trees aren't a consideration anymore. You can see that, and we've got zoom. No one told me we had zoom. We've got zoom insane. Now. You can actually see those two flare stacks. You can see the one to the left of the hangar there, and the one to the left of the water tower. So yeah, it looks like Jerry's got a zoom lens. I never knew Jerry had a zoom lens.
Chat, do we like that?
Do you like this, chat?
By the way, here you can beautifully see the left flare stack is the methane flare stack, and the right flare stack is the hydrogen flare stack. So this is the great view to do that. So yeah, we are using this first opportunity to do this to also test out what we can do for New Glenn. And of course, it's not like Starship. We cannot put a truck next to it unless Blue Origin wants that. Hey, by the way, if you want that, please phone us. But from the access we have at the Cape, look at this. That's not too bad, right?
Yeah, these are some pretty cool shots, thanks to Max on the right and Jerry on the left. Yeah, these are pretty cool. And fortunately, we don't have any crazy heat haze today, like Florida likes to do. We have a moderate haze, shall I say, which is affording us these really crisp views from the ground-based shots on the right and the airborne shots on the left. And we can see that venting very clearly from both Max's and Jerry's views here. Because what was I going to say? You can see it kind of against the blue sea there, ever so slightly.
Absolutely stunning. I love this. Honestly, I love this. This is fantastic. Also, we can now see the rocket properly. This is like helping us really to see this rocket. Besides that transporter erector. So really, really cool. Thanks for you two going out there and getting us these views. Amazing.
And we've got a wide shot now as well. Wonderful.
Wow. We're getting there. Look at there. You can see the Blue Origin letters on the building.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're getting there.
That's
we have like 6-7 cameras for this test.
That's the huge hangar where they store New Glenn before rolling it out to the pad, because if we cast our minds back, we can remember that mammoth road closure and that huge rollout, because they have to roll the New Glenn booster all the way from their production facilities at Exploration Park, all the way past the VAB at the Kennedy Space Center, past our Space Coast Live cameras, by Launch Complex 39A, and then down on the road that follows the beach, all the way down to Complex 36 there, where they then get it ready inside of that hangar.
Yep, absolutely. It's this is wonderful to see, and we see New Glenn venting continuously. You can now see actually that there's two kinds of vents. The top vent, the more strong vent, is looking to be a transporter erector vent, very similar to, for example, Falcon fueling operations. There you can see it, right? And the bottom vent, I think, is actually the rocket. That is like venting because it's frosty.
Yep. So maybe this is a sign of prop load, perhaps? Maybe?
Yeah, there is definitely propellant inside of the New Glenn first stage. Like, I would feel very confident to say that based on this view. So, yeah, looking awesome so far, I would say. And I love this view. Like, this is absolutely stunning footage. And I also love the drone view, because for some reason the drone view gives you a better perspective how big this rocket is. I don't know why, but it seems more massive.
It really gives you the perspective to be able to see the ground around the vehicle much more, because our Cape cams are mounted up high, but still, we can't control the foliage around Blue Origin's pad, right? You can see those huge trees along by the entrance to Port Canaveral there, and then the trees and stuff as well. But being able to, actually fly up higher provides us this excellent view from Jerry, which is looking pretty good. Pretty good.
Yep. I'm very impressed by the team. Just want to finish that, like, very impressed by the team at the Cape getting this together. Like, this is really cool.
I agree. I'm going to hit a few more questions as we get ready to see whatever Blue Origin decides to do, because again, NSF can confirm Blue Origin is doing something, but we cannot confirm what they are doing. Future Space Tourist is asking, do we have any estimations of how long New Glenn takes to load all of its propellant? And Adrian, I think Dave Lim, Blue Origin CEO, has actually confirmed this on social media.
I think the answer was less than 30 minutes, if I completely recall correctly. So kind of impressive. how fast they will be able to do this. I'm searching for the exact clip. Only about 30 minutes is the wording he said. GS1 tanking during the NG1 launch will only take about 30 minutes. So yeah, Dave Limp confirming that on X. And shoutouts to Dave Limp in general, because the amount of updates we get from him about the testing of this is really, really nice. And I love this. The very cool transparency here, talking about the launches and talking about the steps to get this rocket to fly.
Yeah, it's been very, very welcome. Blue Origin and Dave Limp kind of opening up a bit more on social media over the last few months, sharing their progress as they work towards the maiden flight of this vehicle, seeing inside the hangars, seeing the extra information, seeing the second stage static fire, because we have actually seen a static fire of New Glenn before, except it was a test of the second stage GS2 or Glenn stage 2 with its 2 vacuum optimized engines there. But we're still watching. Yep. That vent's still going from the transporter erector there, and this view actually allows us to get a great view of the lighthouse there as well, which is tiny
that lighthouse
in comparison.
That lighthouse feels so pointless next to this. Like everything is bigger than this lighthouse.
Yeah. This rocket is huge. Pointless. Also, this just lets us. It really puts into perspective how big that water tower is. That water tower is ginormous compared to that rocket.
I mean, probably roughly about 95 meters water tower.
Yeah, it's huge.
Just roughly, because again, New Glenn is about 98 meters.
And speaking of static fires, Gonzalo has a question here about the engines on New Glenn's first stage. Adrian, how powerful are the 7 BE4s that power New Glenn?
Absolutely. Yeah. So combined, they are at 17,100 kilonewton. Each of them will produce 2,400 kilonewton of thrust. That's quite a lot. They have.
I think quite a lot is an understatement.
Yeah, it's a beefy engine. BE4 is a very beefy engine. They can produce. It's again roughly like the whole stack is about 2.5 Falcon Heavies of thrust, 2 to 2.5, somewhere in there. So this rocket is a bit less powerful, but still very powerful than compared to Falcon Heavy. So somewhere in the 2 to 3 Falcon range.
I am really enjoying this activity right now. Someone else who I think is enjoying this activity right now is Max Evans. Do we have you on comms, Max?
I have you 5x5, Ryan. How do you have me?
Hello, Matt. How are you doing, Max? Are you excited?
I mean, we've only been waiting for New Glenn for how many years now, and it's really super. It's always 2 weeks, but it genuinely is incredibly exciting to see the actual flight hardware launch vehicle up on the pad. Hopefully about to do some static fire testing here soon, if not at least a wet dress. But to actually see it out there on the pad, getting frosty, getting full, getting some action in is very much, it's very exciting indeed. And hopefully by the end of the year, we will see it launch from the very facility that we are seeing it at now, but time will tell.
Yeah, I'd love to see them launch before the end of the year. Unfortunately, the end of the year is coming up pretty soon, and there's a major holiday in the US between now and the end of the year, which happens to take up a few days of people's time. So maybe this will happen, maybe this won't. But I'm sure we both agree that we'd love to see, Max, you've photographed Methalox rockets before, famously a very big one in South Texas. How do you think this one's going to compare to Starship?
I've thought about that a lot, and we've had a little bit of a preview with Vulcan and its pair of BE4s, so we have somewhat of an idea of how that plume will look outside of the test fire videos that Blue has released from their test stand. But I've tried thinking about it as much as I can, but there's not a whole lot to go off of until this thing static fires, because we don't know how the plume is going to behave out of the trench. We don't exactly know what the plume shape, color, and size is going to be from all 7 BE forced together at liftoff because it's a different running cycle compared to the Raptors. So, I don't know. I think the exhaust plume itself is going to be a bit more blue, and given the lower thrust to weight ratio that new Glenn has, I feel like it's going to be a little bit slower off the pad than people maybe expect. But I don't know. I'm super excited to find out.
Yeah, I've said it before. I'll say it again. We can confirm Blue Origin is doing something, but we don't know what they're doing just yet because we've still got to figure all of this stuff out. We don't have any OLM vents to indicate fuel loading. All we've got are those flare stacks that we're keeping an eye on there. And you can see one of them next to the water tower there, still just spitting out a little bit of flame. In reality, there's quite a lot of flame. It's just the flare stack's very big and it's very far away, so it looks small. We've got the other flare stack on the other side of the pad, which we're keeping an eye on. So yeah,
This drone view.
they're doing something.
This drone view.
Yeah,
We'll take another moment to respect the drone view.
This is pretty much what we see on our flyovers heading out over the port. So it's nice to see it live. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine having this view for launch, Max?
Oh my goodness, Adrian, you're killing me.
It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Sorry, I'm again. There's a fair amount of Blue Origin enthusiasts at NSF, and I feel like everybody of us is very excited right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Jay saying in the background, who I forgot to thank for operating the stream, Jay Keegan in the background pushing the buttons. Thank you very much, Jay. He's saying in the back channel, pray to the TFR gods, because hopefully there isn't a flight restriction big enough around the pad so that Jerry can still get his drone up over the port here.
I'm hopeful it should be fine. We still see the main body of the first stage venting. Which is good because that means there's something in that first stage. There's most likely the funny thing is I think we cannot see it fully in mag shot here right now because the venting goes in the other direction. So basically what we see here is the venting. Basically you see the left side of the rocket on mag shot, and in drone shot you see a bit more of the right side of the rocket. And the wind goes from the left to the right here. That's why we see the venting more on the right side. And that's definitely the first stage venting. Like that first stage is frosty.
Mm-hmm. Ingo McLean is so impressed by our views here of New Glenn. They're already wondering about our expansions into Wallops. Feasibility of cameras to view Neutron at Wallops? I don't know. Das might be planning something. He's typically planning stuff in his garage. If you are a member in the Discord, the NSF member Discord the other night, he was machining stuff because that's what Das does. I don't know. It would be great to see a Neutron launch, but Wallops is you can get relatively close as a member of the public at Wallops. It's just we can't exactly leave a trailer in the middle of nowhere with a few cameras on it.
I mean, we have done it before with the last ever launch of the Interiors 200 series. So there's a non-zero chance that we could be up there, but we still have no idea when Neutron will fly for the first time, but we will for sure be keeping our eyes peeled.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, absolutely.
We've got Max on the right, Jerry on the left. All the angles covered except from the sea because it's the sea.
Yep,
that would be great. That would be great, but being that close to the rocket, a rocket this powerful, when it fires all 7 of its engines for the first time, and we don't know exactly what the outcome of that is going to be, sounds a little bit dangerous. Even though I'd still be down for it. But hey,
there'll be a few waivers to sign, Max, and then we'll send you out on a boat for you to shoot.
Carson in the back channel is like buoy cam. Yeah, we need one of those. That'd be great.
Yeah. Just need to, remote steer it out. Adrian, is there any, what's it called, like an MSIB or an OPMAR for the testing today? Or is it just generally don't go and sail up to the Space Force base? That's just generally flatline rule, not a great idea?
I think there's a general restriction for New Glenn testing out there, but that is like a standing one that is basically there for a longer period of time. We don't, Max, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we have any good indication when they're testing so far, because there's not like an additional MSIP that is being issued for these tests.
Yeah, that is correct. We have not seen anything publicly announced by Blue, and we have not seen any TFRs or NOTAMs up posted today. So we really have no direct indication of when testing might occur, or even what testing that they are targeting at all today, whether it be a wet dress and static fire, or just a wet dress, or just a static fire, even though it has been frosty for a little bit now. There's been no public confirmation by Blue of what they are targeting to do today, other than Dave Lim tweeting out a few days ago that they have been giving clearance for a wet dress. So we are just pretty much doing some good old-fashioned tank watching, but here in Florida for once.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And let's be real, this test is very much also about us getting an understanding for this rocket. Like, this test is very much also a test of our NSF systems to test out what we can do and understand and general do with New Glenn. Like, that's the thing. Yes. We also had to get used to this, right? Max, you have to get used to filming this rocket. Same goes for Jerry. Commentators have to get used to talk about this and understand what we're actually looking at. So there's so much that we have to acquire now that we already have with Starship and Falcon. So it's always very excited for us as commentators because, well, it's something totally new.
We have an interesting, actually, I'll hold on that question for a second based on what I just sent out the corner of my eye. We have another question which isn't interesting at all from Kevin Michelle Reed. Is that who that? I'm not sorry if I pronounced your name incorrectly. Asking, is this Ship 26? Nice paint job if it is. No, fortunately, this is not Ship 26. That has been scrapped and will never be seen again. Thank the Starship Lords for that.
I mean, if you take GS2 alone and the fairing assembly, it kind of looks like a Ship 20, like a V2 or a V3 ship 26 variant. You know,
that's cursing true. I kind of want to. I kind of want to bring up something here, Jay. I believe we have this ready because I saw people like talking about, well, what is venting there? There's something very interesting from the New Glenn payload user guide I quickly pulled up, and that's this here. So what you of course see is the first stage there, consisting of the first stage aft module, mid module, and forward module. And the upper tank that is venting here very clearly is the LNG tank. The LOX tank is at the bottom, the LNG tank is at the top here, and we can very clearly see that the venting tank here should be about the LNG tank. So there's probably some LNG in this. You can see that because it's very slightly below the two strakes in the middle of the rocket. Are these? I'm always getting this wrong. This is fins, right? The four in the middles are the fins. The strakes are at the bottom. Sorry. There you go. And in general, that's the LNG tank. You can also see this very, very tiny LOX tank on the first stage here on this picture, on the second stage here, because the LOX tank versus the LH2 tank, because the ratio with hydrogen versus liquid oxygen and combustion is a bit different. It's very, very tiny versus every other tank. So yeah, this tank we see venting here is most likely LNG.
And we had another question along those lines from Doya asking, does New Glenn have a methane or liquid oxygen tank at the top, like a header tank? And I'm not sure whether they have like header tanks inside the booster for the landing. Do you know, Adrian?
We have seen them test header tanks, but we don't know if that was for any second stage or first stage, because it was very much in their experimental testing area. We have not, to my knowledge, seen the inside of these tanks yet and know what exactly they're using to solve propellant sloshing. However, it is very likely that they have some sort of mechanism either due to a header tank or a fuel collector or some sort of like isolated tank, but there's very likely that for the, let's say, high aerodynamic phase of landing, they have some sort of landing tank that helps them ignite these engines.
I think it might be a bit more difficult to make a case for the one or two header tanks in each of the prop tanks in the first stage, simply because New Glenn is not going to be doing a belly flop maneuver, and thus and thus meaning the propellant is already going to be seated at the bottom of the tank from the deceleration as it is coming back through the atmosphere. So, and as you were just saying, we have not seen any photos or any imagery or media from what the internal tank structure of GS1 looks like. So, yeah, I don't know.
It's if it's very similar to Falcon 9. Falcon 9 uses, to my knowledge, a device called fuel collector, which is basically a very small a side wall attached header tank that has like a very small reserve of fuel, and basically is used to ignite that. And once you're in the full throttle burn, you can just use the settled propellants. Like it's just against this initial sloshing.
Yeah.
So probably somewhere in there, something like that. There's honestly, that part of the landing, Blue Origin has experience with. Like, I know people are joking, like, yeah, New Shepard is not orbital. Well, but landing a rocket stage propulsively, like, I bet you they have very good experts about that, and especially about things like propellant settling, because that's the exact same effects they will experience with New Shepard. Like,
Yeah.
They still have to solve propellant settling, and they still have to solve igniting a rocket stage while going downwards. That's the same with New Shepard. Like that's a skill they have learned.
Yeah, thankfully the actual laws of physics around landing a first stage booster haven't really changed when it comes to different rockets. I mean, generally, any launch vehicle that you have flying and you're planning on reusing it and bringing the first stage down, any amount of flight time is good data, and that can be transferred over to whatever launch vehicle you are planning on building in the future, or any I guess different evolutions of the first stage that you might want to adapt in, but any amount of flight data is good data. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, we have seen the same with SpaceX, of course, with getting to the booster catch super fast in the first attempt. And that comes because of their experience. Even though they don't have that much experience landing a super heavy, they have a lot of experience landing Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy cores. So there's a lot of expertise in there that they have built up over time. The same goes probably in a bit of smaller scale here for Blue Origin, because they have experience landing rockets. Of course, not orbital, so they have some skills they have to acquire here with New Glenn, but they also have a skill set they already have and they can probably use. So that's why they have confidence that they potentially can make a first landing. And I once again want to say, it's cool that they try. That's exciting. If you're against rocket companies trying to land on the first attempt of a launch, what are you even doing?
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Yep.
Convenient name for this booster. And, you know, on a similar note, it took SpaceX multiple times to get Starship, as in like the ship, to be able to propulsively land, right? We've all seen the test flights, the suborbital hops. They blew up every time, apart from when they finally stuck the landing. So, and then the first time they managed to get through re-entry with Starship, they do a soft propulsive landing in the ocean, and it works. You know, it was a little bit off course, but it was a soft propulsive landing in the ocean, and they managed to stick it. So previous flight data is always useful when moving forwards in a test program.
I want to address a question here that I'm picking, Ryan, if that's okay, because there's a question: is there a reason Blue Origin isn't as transparent with their testing? And I kind of quickly addressed that because I feel like that has improved significantly in the last year, because they used to be very secretive. No doubts about that, but especially under I want to say the reign of Dave Limb, I feel like they have become a way more transparent company. We see now them posting all kinds of tests very fast after the conducting of that test on X. We have seen them communicating a lot over their company's X account. I feel like it has gotten better. Like that's my overall impression with the company's communication strategy.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but the way that might, I'm going to say the way that might seem is because we haven't seen New Glenn testing in this way before, right? We're in the same boat as you guys. We are watching, we are learning, we're trying to figure out what Blue Origin is doing right now with New Glenn. It might feel like they're a bit more closed off because with the Starship testing, we kind of know exactly what SpaceX is doing based on road closures on Highway 4, based on what parts of the tank farm we're seeing spooled up, seeing how much each tank is fueled, for example, whether it's a fully loaded liquid oxygen tank, a little bit of methane, maybe the full vehicle is loaded. That's more difficult to see on New Glenn because it's a painted white vehicle and Frost is white, so it's more difficult to pick out. But SpaceX doesn't give us a press release before every Starship test they do. They don't do a post ahead of each testing saying, hey, we're going to be doing a cryogenic proof test of Ship 33 today. We have to figure that out after the fact. And it's the exact same thing with New Glenn. We've got to figure out what Blue Origin are doing after the fact because, companies don't have to give us a full-on press release before they do a days of testing, right? So I can understand why it might feel like Blue Origin is being a bit more closed off with New Glenn, but I'd also argue there is significant past precedent of this is actually being quite open with people. Like, we are allowed, they are doing this in a position where we can have live views from the air of them doing this awesome testing with this 100-meter tall rocket. And speaking of SpaceX, they also wanted to steal the show here slightly, and we have a fairing recovery ship now sailing in. I'm not sure if this is Bob or Doug. Maybe this is Doug. I'm not sure, but it's coming in with fairings on board. Maybe, hopefully, Space Coast stops.
Yeah, I think this is Doug. Hello, Doug.
But there you go. I'm sure Fleet Cam will be getting some action in a little while with Doug arriving back at port.
Yeah. Always good to see the amount of activity in Florida, and it's not going to be less in the next few years. Let's be real. Right now, we talk a lot about about Boca Chica all the time, but the Cape is the one which will host a lot of Artemis launches. The Cape will host New Glenn, will host Starship. There's so much activity that is coming down the line here at the Cape. So it feels like a bit of a build up here because it's still starting, but the Cape will be the exciting, crazy part very, very soon. And not only Falcon 9s will launch here.
Yeah. There are more rockets in this world than just Starship, and I feel like sometimes we're a bit too focused on Starship and everything is Starship and Starship, and it's like, maybe we could spend 5 minutes talking about New Glenn because Blue Origin might not be launching today, but they are doing some pretty cool stuff coming up pretty soon. And one of those things is Blue Moon, which is their human landing system contract from NASA to land astronauts on the moon. This rocket is going to be launching a lunar lander in just a few years. Adrian, that's pretty exciting, right? This vehicle is a direct competitor with Starship because Starship has a human landing system variant. Blue Origin has a human landing system variant themselves.
Absolutely. It's showing that they are very ambitious and they're planning. And the landing is planned as early as Artemis 5, so not that far behind. The Blue Moon lander is currently the contracted spacecraft for the Artemis 5 mission. So yeah, this is also Artemis hardware getting ready. As we talk about Starship being a keystone to get a presence on the moon, so is New Glenn. So is Blue Origin. They are very important in that endeavor as well. So it's good to see these companies spooling up for that. I'm excited about this, and I see some people being like, "Oh, the venting is gone." No, it's not gone. It's just this camera perspective. If you go to the other camera perspective, you see the venting pack. It's like left side of the rocket, no venting. But if we have the right side of the rocket, it's venting. It's just depending on that, and also you can see the flare stack there still active. So don't panic.
Yep. Also, the sky, especially from the Cape Cam perspective, has been very grey today. So it's been really difficult to tell exactly when the flare stack started, exactly when this venting started, because we've got white venting out of a white rocket on a grey sky. It's really, Florida weather, some contrast would be nice. Just saying.
Something travel brochures.
Oh, come on now.
I'm just saying, Max. I'm just saying.
I mean, the weather at this. I mean, granted, we are having a much better winter so far this year than we had last year because I've said it 1,000 times before. The El Nino that came in last winter just absolutely just destroyed the weather for us. Normally, winters for us are very sunny, not a lot of rain, very pleasant temperatures, but we do occasionally still get some foggy mornings as we had today, some partially cloudy skies or very cloudy skies and some rain. We are not immune to moisture in this part of the world or this part of the States. But weather overall right now has improved very much so. And as the sun gets lower behind my back, the light on the pad should be getting a little bit better. But either way, we will be here until either the entire vehicle detanks or we have a notification that testing has finished for today.
Yep, absolutely. And right now it seems a bit of a, hold because the transporter erector at least has stopped venting. Of course, that could also be that they purged the transporter erector and are now loading a different commodity. It's hard to it's hard to guess at this point. We are still learning.
Yeah,
there's a lot to learn with New Glenn. Absolutely. Yeah, there is a lot to learn. I mean, obviously, New Glenn has never flown. There is a ton of stuff that we don't even know in terms of the countdown or their timeline, or even what this thing is going to look like once it's airborne, or even just static on the pad with all of its engines lit. There is so much that we don't know, and that we're so curious to find out about. It's really difficult to gauge what exactly we're looking at. It's very tricky.
Yeah, and I want to also quickly mention the fact that that I want to thank Harry Stranger here because as much as we always, for example, thank Alex and Ryan for helping us build knowledge about Starship, we should also mention Harry here, who has been very much a champion of New Glenn here at NSF. And besides writing just flyovers, also writing some amazing articles that help us build knowledge about these topics. And that's the thing we always need. We need to build up knowledge before we can talk educated about them. So shout outs to Harry, who's probably still asleep because in Australia right now it's very much sleep o'clock.
Yeah, and no, I won't do it. I was about to upset Harry, but I won't do that by adding a S to the start of the name of the launch pad. But don't worry, I won't do that. I'm not evil. We have some good questions in here coming in. First of all, Chris Hay. Sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. I'll go around the both of yous here. Adrian first. What do you think launches first? New Glenn or Starship Flight 7?
New Glenn.
Max, what do you think?
You know, I'm not as confident in answering it as Adrian just was. Adrian. I want to say New Glenn. I really do. I want to see New Glenn get off the ground before the year's over. But as you said earlier, Ryan, the end of the year is approaching rapidly. So I still want to say New Glenn. If not this year, I think at least in the first couple of weeks of January. But that also, in theory, brings it pretty close to Starship Flight 7. So I think for now, I'm probably 70-30 New Glenn.
I want to point out, by the way, that I have thought about this a few hours ago, and that's why I had a fast answer. It's not an easy answer. I think it will be. I think there will be days between them. I think here's my prediction: New Glenn and Starship Flight 7 will be in a matter of less than a week.
Yeah, I agree with Adrian with that one. But it does kind of depend on when they get their testing done, because if they really want to fly soon, they've got to get a wriggle on with their testing. They've got to get static fired, and then maybe if they find an issue with the static fire, they'll have to roll back. Maybe we have to allow time margin for these things. Not saying I don't want there to be any issues, but let's be realistic here. This is brand new rocket that has never been flown before from a company that has never flown a rocket to orbit before. There is stuff that's going to be learned with this flight, right? And we saw it with SLS. That thing had been designed on paper for decades, and yet it had multiple launch attempts from the span of August to November 2022, right? Space isn't easy. Big rockets are incredibly difficult to do, especially brand new ones. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there is a little bit longer having to wait with New Glenn. But assuming the testing goes swimmingly, I agree with Adrian. We could be seeing maybe second week of January with a Starship launch not too far away, which is going to be brilliant from a coverage perspective. I'm sure everyone is going to be really looking forward to that.
Yeah, also it's the reality that makes NSF's life the hardest to coordinate. And I have learned that the reality is always the path that makes planning streams the hardest. So it's kind of I predict that Starship and New Glenn will have test windows on same days, and then from time to time slip around each other. That's my actual prediction. By the way, this shot is amazing.
Yeah, for SpaceX, they saw New Glenn was getting all the attention. They've got a photobomb the shot anyway.
How about that? The crane almost looks like it's flexing too, just to show off.
Yeah, and that looks like
two
a full
healthy
haul
fairings
there. Yeah, with 2 good fairings there. So, well done to SpaceX for yet another catch with their fairing reuse program, which is really saving them, a maybe not, a Falcon 9 booster is definitely more expensive than a Falcon 9 fairing, but these things, they're not cheap. So any money you can save, every little helps, as a certain supermarket says here in the UK.
Yep, absolutely. And I want to point out the fact, like, this is a campaign leading up to a maiden launch. We are always good at, I feel like, and that's an important part, pointing out that maiden launches are very, very tough. And there's chances that something goes wrong here and they need to roll this back and repair something. And that's okay. Look at how long it took, for example, Starship to get in the air. Look at how long it took any other maiden flight rocket to get into the air after it started test campaigning. Like,
cough, SLS.
Yeah, you see? It can happen. And that's okay. Like, that's why they do this test, and that's why we also give them the absolutely same kind of appreciation for doing spaceflight than any other company. And I'm looking forward to this maiden flight.
I mean, there is one rocket which got into the air much sooner than we thought it would, and that was the Tiangong 3, which actually managed to turn its static fire into a launch. But fingers crossed, we don't see that with the New Glenn.
Is Tianlong 3 the first rocket that launched before expected?
I'm not sure, but I know I think it might be the only rocket on Wikipedia that has total launches 1 in brackets unintentional.
I mean, technically, the first ever Mercury Redstone rocket launched like 7 inches before coming back down before it shut down. Anyone recall that?
Oh yeah, that's true. But honestly, I just looked this up. You're right. It really says total launches 1 unintentional. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, this is absolutely fantastic.
We've been getting some support in chat that I want to go through really quickly. Anonymous gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Thank you very much. Sean becoming a Capcom member. That means you now have access to our Discord server, where the other day Das was playing with things in his garage. And Plutonium 239 with a $20 super chat. We need Jeff Bezos and Blue Origin emojis. I wonder if... I think there might be some in the Discord server. I wonder if YouTube chat can get them hooked up as well. I'm not sure though. We'll see what we can do about that. We have been getting many questions in chat, so thank you very much everybody for bringing them in. We have another question here from High Reactivity. Adrian, why does New Glenn not use grid fins? Because if we have a look there, especially in Max's view, they have normal fins on the interstage area there.
It's just a different aerodynamic concept to redirect airflow. Like it's in the essence, it's basically the same kind of concept. You use the airflow that goes past your rocket and redirect it to steer yourself. Of course, you're getting to the point of like what is better in braking and what is better in redirecting airflow. I wonder if they just went with the New Glenn concept because it's something they understand from New Shepard. Because it's very similar to what New Shepard used to steer. So that might be a reason. But in characteristics, they are very similar to each other. It's a way to redirect your airflow past your rocket to steer your rocket.
Yeah. Let's have a look here. Johan has a very interesting question here, asking, would a crew-rated New Glenn be called New Armstrong? And I think New Armstrong is like a conceptual, potential, maybe super mega bigger lift rocket kind of down the line for Blue Origin. Adrian, can you explain what New Armstrong might be?
It's it's a word that has been thrown around even by Jeff Bezos on a very old presentation, I believe. New Armstrong is their next generation rocket. It's like their bigger than New Glenn rocket. We don't know exactly what the cutoff is, like what exactly they mean. New Armstrong is not really a detailed rocket yet. We know, I think one of the wording that is this pad is built for New Armstrong. So that's why LC-36, for example, is so over-designed, because it's built for New Armstrong. We don't know exactly what the design goals, the size, and everything of that rocket is. I think it is very safe to assume it's somewhere in the Starship class of vehicles. I think that's the overall speculation, but we don't know anything more. It's a very conceptual rocket at this point, and we will have to wait for them to actually move into some sort of testing before we get a really better feeling of what it will be.
Mm-hmm. We've got a few more. Oh, we've got a couple more super chats coming in here. First from Helge. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. With a €23.99 super chat. Thank you very much. A big thank you for letting us space nerds around the world participate. Well, you're very welcome, and hopefully these extra views with zoomy views is I saw Kevin did a tweet of my quote here, and he tagged me. And we've got Zoom. Nobody told me we have Zoom. Ryan Caton 2024. There you go, chat. You can keep that one.
That's good for a potential intro, honestly. Like I would love that in a potential intro.
And here we go. We've got Zoom. No one told me we've got Zoom. You know, I'm sure Jack would be loving that.
That's a kind of quote that Jack would love.
And Steve, thank you very much for the $10. Thank you very much for your support, and thank you very much for wishing us the happy holidays to the NSF crew, who are going to be getting. We're going to try and have a few days off. You know, dare I say, if there's a Starlink at midnight on Christmas Day, maybe we'll leave that one to Space Coast Live, and we might not be too worried about commentary. But you know, if New Glenn decides to do a New Glenn, and I'm just gonna say, fingers crossed, we get a couple of days off. That's what I'm hoping for, at least.
Yeah, right now NSF has 3 more streams planned until Christmas. That's the a rough planning right now. We have Astranis, we have the Flame Trench, and we have Starlink Group 12-2.
Let's have a look.
Kevin Michael Reed in chat is saying, I think we are going to have 0 days off.
Kevin.
Ninja Decimator asking, will we get Yak in a kayak in a kilt cam for future New Glenn views? I'm not sure. You'll have to ask him. It's quite a way to sail from Boca Chica, So thank you very much for your 28 months as a member. It's greatly appreciated. Always see you in chat. Adrian, this is an interesting question for you. John Cook asking, what are some comparable rockets in regards to payload capacity to low Earth orbit? And we were speaking earlier, this is kind of in the Falcon Heavy-ish range. I guess you might be able to compare it to Vulcan, maybe Arianespace, maybe?
Yeah. When we go mass to Leo, we are talking in terms of other comparable rockets very much like Falcon Heavy, like below Falcon Heavy, but like somewhere in that ballpark. Probably Long March 5-ish. That's another rocket that is somewhere in that ballpark. Then we have of course, like a fully upgraded or like fully SRB'd Vulcan, like full capacity Vulcan potentially, and somewhere on the upgrade path, maybe like an Ariane 6. But this is a bit bigger than all of these. Besides Falcon Heavy, Falcon Heavy is really the one that is even bigger. But then after that comes New Glenn.
Yeah. This rocket is just big. Like, can we just sit
Yes.
here and gawk at the fact this is a nearly 100-meter tall heavy lift rocket that's just, casually chilling out at the pad, just hanging out, just because, why not? Let's just hang out at pad 36 with New Glenn, because why not?
Yep. It's absolutely massive.
Adrian, this is
Yes.
a chat comment for you in response to a comment from the beginning of the stream. If you want to read this one out.
You can fit 46,000 squirrels inside New Glenn. I'm glad you're having fun.
I actually compliment you. Your pronunciation of squirrel improved. However, you said 46,000 instead of 460,000.
Oh no!
Oh my God, that's a huge difference.
I focused so much on the S word that I didn't focus on the number.
Wait,
Oh, this is the
Adrian,
worst.
which S word, scrub or squirrel?
I only say the other S word next time you're at the 4 a.m. Starlink, Max. That's where I bring out the other S word. But I think we should point out at this point that activity is a bit dying down. The venting from the methane tank is fading out a bit, and the flare stacks are going a bit into continuous normal burning and no longer in this crazy burning. So it seems maybe they are in detanking ops. We'll observe a bit longer.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye. Misty asking, New Glenn static fire or just tanking today? Adrian, what did you say? It looks like they're kind of chilling down, but I'm trying to calm down here a little bit with the operations. Maybe we'll just see some tanking ops with New Glenn today.
I think if you had like an indication needle that is somewhere between static fire and no static fire, it would now start to swing towards no static fire today. Not confirmed yet. Again, this is a new rocket. This could be, for all we know, this could be a hold right before T0. Like, we don't have any clue how New Glenn looks, but based on other knowledge from other rockets we can transfer to this, this seems more like detanking ops right now than actual like preparation for an imminent static fire.
And looking to the future, we were just discussing when we think the maiden launch will be, whether it'll be before or after Starship's 7th flight in January. Gwen Ever asking, I'll go around everyone. Adrian, I'll start with you. How many New Glenn flights do you think we'll see next year? They are hoping for 6.
Yeah, I would go with, like, I think they will be able to spool this up relatively quick if it were. Like, it very much depends on the success of the first flight. We know they have already hardware for the second, third, and fourth flight, like somewhere around in their hangar. Like, they are testing. Ask Max, every time they fly over this 2CAT and TCAT, there's another tank in there. So, I would say they have hardware. The question is just, will the rocket work? But I would go with 5-6 flights next year.
Max, what do you think?
Well, to kind of build upon what Adrian was saying, yeah, we've seen that they have hardware for at least the first 3 flights. For obviously, Flight 1 is on the pad right now, and 2 and 3 are currently in production as we speak. Depending on how the first flight goes, honestly, to be a little bit pessimistic, it really depends on how the rocket performs, but also how the actual pad infrastructure also performs, or if that takes a larger beating than perhaps Blue Origin expected, kind of like what happened to Mobile Launcher 1 in SLS after Artemis 1. So they want to get this flight off the ground. Escapade is hopefully going to be Flight 2, and potentially a Space Force flight for Flight 3. I'm going to say 3 flights next year at the most. Yeah, I think 3 flights at the most. And we do see a bunch of hardware over in 2CAT and sometimes outside of the GS1 facility as well. But we have obviously observed that they had somewhat of an anomaly or RUD at 2CAT, and 2CAT is currently having to undergo a decent amount of repairs to its roof and its door, and I'm not quite sure how that would have affected their production of GS2 tanks. But yeah, I think 3 flights in 2025.
Okay.
I'm going to agree with you there. 3 flights seems like the kind of sweet spot for me if they manage to launch in January. So, yeah. Chat. Let's have a look at chat. What's chat saying about how many times they think they'll be launching next year? Let us know, chat. I'll read them out as they come in. Harry Vlog saying 3 in chat. You've got to wait the few seconds now for chat to be able to catch up. Demian says 5. Spectorial Naught says 2. Shaden says 1. Redstone says 2. Kerbal
like
and go on, Adrian.
20. No. I feel like if you plot this chat response, it's like somewhere between 2 and 3.
Yeah, except Nils, who has said 2.5,
which is very much between 2 and 3.
That means. I don't want to know what 2.5 means. But okay. Thank you very much, chat. Thank you very much. And I think 20 might be pushing it a little bit. I'll stick with 3. I'll stick with 3 for now. Either way, this upcoming launch and fingers crossed testing goes well. This is looking pretty exciting. We can see both flare stacks now, as Adrian, you said. They seem to be more of a chill out mode rather than we need to burn off propellant mode.
Yeah, I feel like this is dying down a bit. The rocket seems mostly empty at this point. I feel like they're spooling down operations, at least for now. Of course, that doesn't mean they're done for today. And now, I think we'll get to a point that will be very familiar to early tank watchers in a bit. We will spool back up when something happens.
Yeah, just like the flare stacks. Hey. In the meantime, though, when we have this kind of testing starting to wrap up with Starship, you can keep an eye 24/7 on Starbase Live. Well, if you are new around here and you didn't know, we have another 24/7 live stream called Space Coast Live, which, you guessed it, is based at the Space Coast. We have Fleet Cam at Rusty's at the port of Canaveral. We have our Cape Cams looking on across the entrance to the port at New Glen and the Lighthouse. And what's the other one there? Is it 46? I can't remember. One of the pads there where Astro launched from. You know what I'm talking about. We have our cams on the hut at the Kennedy Space Center press site looking at 39A and 39B. And then, of course, whenever we have a Falcon 9 launching every other day, Max and D roll out at the Cape, Julia and Sawyer as well sometimes for those launches as well. So we have loads of stuff, and you can look at the VAB even, or you can watch Doug, which is now coming into port, which we saw on Jerry's drone earlier as well. So yeah, there's a lot for you to watch on Space Coast Live, nsf.live/Space Coast. And with that, I am going to, first of all, the excellent drone views today from Jerry. Thank you very much to Jerry for providing those. From across the water as well, on the ground, we had Max Evans. Thank you very much for rolling out today, Max.
Oh, a pleasure as always, everyone, and thank you very much, as always, for coming to hang out with us. I know there was a lot of unknowns, and today's testing and views in the future with New Glenn, especially with testing, are going to require a little bit of patience because there's so much that we don't know of what might happen. But thank you very much for coming on today and hanging out with us, and we will hopefully see you again soon for some more New Glenn testing.
And we, of course, thank the bots, feed the bots doing their things. Adrian, thank you very much for commentating alongside me.
Absolutely was a pleasure. I'm glad we are finally getting into New Glenn commentary again. That was fun, and we will be back if something of indication happens that we should be back.
Big thank you to Jay in the background, pushing all the buttons, showing us all the views, routing all the feeds, doing all of that stuff. We had a couple cameras from Max, one of Jerry's drone as well, so thank you for sorting all of that out. And my name has been Ryan Caton. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for watching, and fingers crossed you'll tune in again very soon for more New Glenn testing. See you soon, everybody.
And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
RS-68 chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, with planet.
Water towers, fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Flight comes SC off. Second, SC off. It's orange!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting with the flare, correct?
Yikes. Keep that. We don't need any more of these.